night's rain lasted exactly 4 peaceful hours on Eidolon Reach before Pines accidentally started an international incident. The morning had begun beautifully. Warm sunlight rolled across the mountain valleys while waterfalls thundered gently through the cliffs surrounding the northern ridge district. Mist drifted between the forests below, and colony transports moved peacefully across the skies toward Calder's Bay for the first time in decades. Darius woke up somewhere without hearing military alarms. That alone almost felt unnatural. The luxury cliffside residence Kenny had given him overlooked half the valley below through massive glass walls and open balconies carved directly into the mountain itself. No guards outside, no servants listening through walls, no hidden political meetings waiting downstairs, just silence. Peaceful silence. Darius stood on the balcony holding a cup of coffee while Risol slept curled around one of the outdoor chairs nearby like some strange glowing cat. The Mist Runner had apparently decided Darius belonged to the mountain district now. Darius honestly did not mind. Then suddenly, an explosion echoed through the valley. The older man froze instantly. Years of military conditioning returned immediately as he spun toward the sound. Another explosion followed. Then Pines screaming, "Why is it spitting fire?" Darius blinked slowly. What? Down below near the lower river cliffs, Pines sprinted through the training fields while being aggressively chased by one of the native stormbacks. The massive 6-legged reptilian creature crackled violently with blue electrical energy while smoke rolled from its nostrils. Behind Pines, Lyra laughed so hard she physically could not stand upright. Kenny stood nearby completely calm with his arms folded, watching the disaster unfold. Pines sprinted upward toward them wildly. That is not a normal animal. The stormback roared loudly behind him. Electricity exploded across nearby stones. Darius looked toward Kenny in disbelief. "What happened?" Kenny answered calmly. "Pines tried feeding it fermented dawn fruit." Lyra collapsed against a railing, laughing. "He said he wanted to see if it became friendlier." Pines pointed wildly toward the approaching creature. "It breathes lightning now." The stormback slammed into a stone pillar nearby, hard enough to crack it in half before stopping suddenly. Then it blinked, looked at Pines, and sneezed another burst of sparks directly into the air. Pines looked genuinely offended. "Brother, that thing hates me personally." Kenny finally sighed quietly and stepped forward. The floating daggers beside him rotated lazily once before settling again. The stormback immediately calmed upon seeing him. It lowered itself slightly with a deep rumbling sound. Pines pointed dramatically. "See?" He gestured wildly between them. "That is ruler privilege." Lyra wiped tears from her eyes. "You fed military alcohol fruit to a lightning dinosaur. It was science. It was stupidity. Sometimes those overlap." Even Darius laughed quietly at that. And honestly, the sound startled him slightly, because he had not laughed naturally in a very long time. The morning only became stranger from there. By midday, Kenny brought Darius into Calder's Bay properly for the first time since arriving. The river capital looked even larger now. The population boom over the last 3 months had transformed the city into a thriving frontier metropolis, overflowing with settlers from dozens of worlds. Trade ships filled the docks. Market districts stretched endlessly beside the rivers. Construction towers rose daily toward the skies. And everywhere, life. Actual life. Street performers played music across bridge districts while children chased mist runners through parks lined with silver leaf trees. Darius noticed something important almost immediately. Nobody looked afraid of Kenny. They respected him, admired him, but not fearfully. That difference still felt alien to someone raised inside House Rain. As the group moved through the city, people greeted Kenny constantly. A fisherman waved from the docks. A baker threw Pines free pastries again despite Lyra warning him not to encourage the behavior. One older woman hugged Kenny without warning before immediately scolding him for not sleeping enough. Darius stared openly afterward. Did that woman just lecture the winner of Eclipse? Pines nodded proudly. That was Martha. Lyra smirked. Nobody escapes Martha. Kenny quietly accepted a wrapped loaf of bread from another nearby stall without protest. Darius shook his head slowly. They treat you like family. Kenny glanced around the city. That was the point. The words hit harder than he probably intended. As they crossed into the central market district, another group approached quickly. Not civilians, officials. Governor Mira Sol moved through the crowd carrying several datapads, while two exhausted assistants struggled behind her. The moment she spotted Kenny, her expression immediately shifted into relief. "There you are." Pines immediately whispered toward Darius. "Watch this." Mira stopped directly in front of Kenny. The Western River District lost power again. Kenny blinked once. "Why are you telling me?" "Because everyone keeps asking what you want done about it." Pines grinned immediately. "See? King problems." Kenny rubbed his face slightly. "I am not an electrician." Mira handed him a datapad anyway. "You are still technically the planetary founder." Darius watched the interaction carefully. No fear, no kneeling, no propaganda performance, just exhausted people trying to solve problems together. The governor finally noticed Darius properly standing nearby. Her expression shifted slightly. "That is definitely a Rain." Pines nodded proudly. "We adopted him." Darius sighed. "I have been here less than 24 hours. Too late." Mira looked toward Kenny cautiously. "Can he be trusted?" Before Kenny answered. "Darius did, more than most of my family." That seemed to satisfy her enough somehow. The governor eventually hurried away again, barking instructions into communication devices while her assistants chased after her through the market crowds. Pines watched them leave quietly. "She has not slept in 3 days. Lyra folded her arms. "The colony expansion is becoming chaotic." Darius looked toward Kenny carefully. "You really intend to keep accepting more settlers?" Kenny nodded once. "As long as the planet can support them." Pines pointed toward the growing skyline beyond the rivers. "People are fleeing frontier systems to come here now." Darius frowned slightly. "Why?" Lyra answered softly. "Because this place gives them hope." The older man fell silent after that, because he understood immediately. House Rain ruled through fear. The Empire ruled through order. But Eidolon Reach, people followed willingly. That made it more dangerous than either. Later that evening, the group gathered near one of the upper river terraces overlooking Calder's Bay while colony lights reflected beautifully across the water below. Music drifted upward from the city festivals, while transports crossed the skies overhead carrying new settlers toward their futures. Pines leaned back across the terrace railing, eating something fried and probably unhealthy. "So," he pointed toward Darius dramatically, "when do we tell him about the secret war plans?" Lyra sighed immediately. "We are not calling them secret war plans. They are absolutely secret war plans." Kenny ignored both of them while watching the city quietly. Darius leaned beside him, overlooking the rivers. "You know your grandfather is going to realize eventually." Kenny nodded once. "I know." The mountain winds moved softly around them. Darius studied the growing city below. "And when he does?" A pause. House Rain will not approach gently. Kenny remained calm. They already are not. The older man glanced sideways toward him carefully, then unexpectedly smiled slightly. "You really are your mother's son." Kenny looked toward him. Darius gestured toward the city. "She used to talk exactly like this." A pause. Quiet, patient, dangerous. Pines immediately pointed. That is simultaneously sweet and horrifying. Rissel suddenly phased directly onto the terrace table, stealing Pines' food before vanishing again across the rooftops. Pines stood up instantly. "That little thief!" Lyra burst out laughing again while Pines sprinted off into the city, chasing the glowing mist runner through crowds of cheering settlers. Darius watched the chaos disappear into the streets below, then quietly looked back toward Kenny. For the first time in decades, he genuinely felt hopeful about the future of House Rain.